We are live. Joseph, we're back, baby.
We're back. Just like LSU is, apparently. Allegedly. We can't get ahead of ourselves just
We're
yet.
back. So I gotta say, let me first start off by saying this to what happened Saturday night in Death Valley. Well, specifically what happened after the game, and I went live. I would like to take this chance to apologize to the entire Believe community for absolutely nothing. SEC West champs do whatever they want. That's what I think, Joe.
What can I ask you this? Because you and I had a really wonderful phone call. You called me later that night, and great conversation. I will leave it at that.
I don't remember it. What did I say?
Well, first of all, you said you were only a little tipsy, which apparently that's definitely not true based on what you just said. No, you just called me to recap the game, and then you were telling me about how excited you were and how happy you were. That was the gist of it, and it made my night. It definitely made my night getting to hear from you. But so, like, when you did your live stream, I'm assuming you were not in the same state as you were when you called me.
So this is what happened. Okay. I had Jack Daniel's Apple on my desk. I also had Crown Royal Peach on my desk.
Oh, no.
And so what happened is I was so excited. I opened up the Crown Royal Peach, and somehow, some way, I drank 3/4 of that bottle in an hour and a half. Yes. And which is not something I do very often.
I would hope not.
And well, actually more like half the bottle. I'll give myself that. More like half the bottle. And at the end of the show, I was just in ecstasy. You know, like I was beyond ecstasy. I kind of would imagine it was you felt a little bit of the same way because Notre Dame took down Clemson.
Okay, so your situation, LSU beating Alabama, like that quite literally is something that hasn't happened in a while. Like in a very big spot that places them in a position to win the SEC West. Like that's huge for you guys. I was excited that Notre Dame beat Clemson, but our season's over. And I have also watched them beat Clemson a couple of years ago in a more meaningful game when they beat DJU at home, and that set them up for the college football playoff game that they played in. I don't know. I wasn't as excited as you were. Definitely not as excited as you were based on the phone call I received.
I was texting my priest and I said, Father, I need this. Like, use all of your Jesus power to make sure that LSU beats Alabama. And he texted me after they won, said, you're welcome. Okay. So Father Abear, wherever you are, it's all Father Abear's doing. He did it. But look, they got people in here saying Blake went full Chris Jackson on the postgame.
Oh, my God.
That's not the Jackson I went. Chris Jackson's not the person I went. More like Samuel L. It's more like what I went. Because and then I'm talking to Cam, and I promised Cam, like, hey, I'm going on Cam's show after this. And, he was just like, hey, listen, just, be cognizant of the F-bombs, but it's great for social media. I had no idea what to say. I had not prepared myself for when we took down Bama. I had no idea what and Joe, it was just so much pimped up frustration over that game that when Brian Kelly came in here and won it, the way that they won it after Orgeron lost by a touchdown last year and they could have won it. Oh God, man. It was just it was insane, man.
I give him legitimate credit for making that decision to go for it on that 2-point conversion. Like that's a ballsy as hell decision. That requires
he's got big balls.
And I know that's like the resounding joke, but like just from like a realistic situation, that's that's a big deal. Like to do that in that game, that's how you win that football game. The momentum's on your side. You march down, you got in that position to score. You kind of have to go for it in that situation. Where I texted you this, or actually I wasn't texting you this. When I was on this phone call, you don't remember. One of the things I asked you is if
phone call. I remember
if I know, I'm just joking. If he didn't get that 2-point conversion, what would your reaction have been? Would you have said that like, hey, I agreed with the decision. I thought that was a great choice, but it sucks that they lost, or would you have been pissed that he went for 2 again for a second loss this season?
For me, it was twofold, right? Like, because you lost at Florida State, you kind of had to go for it, because his backdoor excuse would have been, well, guys, we had an extra point blocked against Florida State, right? So,
yes.
But I'm more conservative. And look, it's just because the game means so much. But again, that's why he makes $90 million guaranteed. And I have never, I haven't lived 90 million, there's nothing 90 million that I've ever even had, nothing it can attribute to what he did. Now, listen, we'll get to that game. Okay. We'll talk a lot of LSU, Alabama in the recap. It's not the only game, though, of the day, Saturday, that we're going to talk a lot about.
By the way, I'm getting chirped a lot in the chat. I don't mean to cut you off, but I love it. I mean, like, I deserve it. I deserve all of this. All the people saying, am I going to apologize to Brian Kelly? Am I going to admit that I was wrong? I'm apologizing. It was a bad weekend for picks, for analysis. It was a rough weekend. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, look, Joe, this is how I get to it.
Mm-hmm.
We are on a live stream for over probably 10 to 15, maybe sometimes 20 hours a week doing social media stuff at minimum, just posting stuff. You're gonna be wrong. Okay. I would challenge, so Joe, Joe, really what you said wasn't wrong. You said the reason I'm not picking him is because, obviously of what he's had. And it's a logical take, but look, we'll get to that. I promise. Trust me, we're going to get to that. Also, it wasn't the only game of the day that we had that was massive. I got to be honest. And see, I was wrong here on this one. I thought Tennessee would be able to move the football bet more on Georgia. Brother, they looked horrendous. When Tennessee came out there, Joe, with orange pants on, I looked at my wife and said, they're about to get their cheeks clashed. Look, it's like a superstitious thing. When you wear orange pants, you deserve to get beat.
It's not intimidating. It's like the softest color pants you could probably wear. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
I hate the white and orange combo. Like, wear the all white.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I knew they didn't deserve to win just because they wore orange pants. But before we get to the break here from our good friends over at Bet Online, I do want to say this. I was wrong. Like, I did not see Georgia's defense this year because they'd struggled with Missouri. They'd struggled with some teams. Bro, Missouri ran for more yards than Tennessee did, almost. So for that thing alone, I mean, look, they stepped it up. And I got to say this, Staquavius Bennett might be, because of C.J. Stroud's inability, might be the Heisman frontrunner at this exact moment. Am I going crazy here now?
I don't think you're going crazy. And we had like a little bit of a lull for Staquavius and some of his weak performances, but I got to give the guy credit. He's been around so long. He's got all these reps under his belt, which sets him up for these situations. But having been around the block and having played in a national championship game, playing in an SEC championship game, all the big games that he's been a part of, sets him up to be cold-blooded in this circumstance. And I got to say, I know that the guy's like a goofy little white guy, but the phone call celebration that he did might have been the toughest thing that I've seen somebody do this season. I was so jacked up when I saw him do that. And the first thing that came into my head is my prediction was right. They are going to pull away with this game easily. And again, for all the bad takes that I had leading up for these games on Saturday, the one that I hit perfectly, like I was 1000% correct. There wasn't a single thing
on this show.
They controlled it, and I did it on my show too. They controlled the tempo perfectly. They dominated the ball on the ground. One thing I didn't predict is that they stretched Tennessee's defense a little bit, but because of how bad they've been in their secondary, they were able to do that so easily. They found so many easy openings deep down the field, which set them up for easy touchdowns. But the big thing is that Hendon Hooker, they pressured him a ton. That defensive line didn't have to play with a loaded box. They got after Hendon Hooker. They got after that offensive line. They were in his face the entire game. And the thing that I predicted is if you get a couple of sacks, you get a turnover, you're going to win that football game if you're Georgia. And they got way more than that, which is why they won so handedly.
Well, and here's another thing, too. He played scared, be quite honest, meaning Hendon Hooker, in my opinion. He did not look like Hendon Hooker. So, look, we'll get into that. So let's do this, Joe, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody do us a favor by hitting like and share. There's 150 of you guys in here. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Don't be a Rudy Poo. Hit the like and share. Share to all those Facebook groups. Share to all those social media pages. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Wherever you listen to podcasts, I think, Joe, we might be renaming the show, right? We talked this.
Yes.
So we'll be
talk
doing
offline
some stuff
about it.
Yeah, we will do some stuff in the future, but for now, do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all of those social media groups. Okay, let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag and our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. We're back in 1 minute. Joe, we got to break down LSU Bama. You know I got to talk about it first.
I'm excited.
Talk about it next.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
All right, we want to give a good shout out to our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons, gmvarnoandsons.com. If you have any issues motor vehicle-wise and you're in the state of Louisiana, broke down on the side of the road, they will come and get you. Hit them up today at 225-664-9992. Let them know that Blake and Joe sent you on by. Okay. Joseph Bruno DeLeone.
Yes, sir.
How about them Tigers, baby? How about
them?
I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember three main things. Number one, Brian Kelly's a Rudy Poo. He can't go to the South. He's not a good fit. He can't recruit good. He won't be good for LSU. And all he did was get. By the way, he can't get a team prepared enough to go in and to beat a team like Alabama. Well, he did it. Number two, I'm old enough to remember when people made fun of him for dancing with a five-star recruit. Doesn't really look so bad right now when you have multiple five-stars lining up at the front door. Number three, though, I always ask this question, Joe, and I think we're starting to get a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
If Brian Kelly ever was able to find a way to get the offensive line and the big guys that he had at Notre Dame to LSU, who historically has the outside presence, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, we know Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jeremy Hill, Leonard Fournette. If he could combine all of that offensively, they will be lethal. Well, Joe, I got to admit to you, they're getting there. He outcoached Saban, brother. And
without a doubt.
And to that point, they held Bryce Young to under 50%. They did things on the outside that was great, but Jane Daniels was absolutely fantastic. Your thoughts on the game?
So the one thing you said perfectly was that Brian Kelly outcoached Nick Saban. And I first of all, I agree with a lot of the other points that you made. I think that this LSU program is a step in the right direction. This is his first year, and they've been doing massive things on the recruiting trail. They have unseated some major players for big name recruits. And I would legitimately be scared for the outcome of what they can put together. And he talked about getting those receivers to play with a really good offensive line. It's building what Notre Dame never really had when he was there. The big thing as well is that Jane Daniels, again, I've said it a million times on the show, the perfect Brian Kelly quarterback, had a perfect game. Not a perfect game, but the game needed to beat Bama. He killed them on the ground. He killed them with his legs. But the main point, the main takeaway that I have had, and this might stir some shit, and I said this on my other show, I think the Bama Dynasty's done. I think it might be time to start talking about, and this is legitimate. We need to start talking about is it time for Nick Saban to hand the keys over to somebody else? Because they have gradually regressed over the past couple of years, and it's all starting to take full head. There was a stat that I heard today, and I don't know the exact quote of it, but it was in the last 17 games, I believe, they've had 10 close games decided by a score. In the previous 10 years before, no, in the previous 54 games before that, they had the same amount. They had 10 games. So they are slowly not becoming that same dominant Alabama team that we remember. It's concerning. It's legitimately concerning. And I think that there is actual weight behind that, saying that he might need to pass it on. He's been there forever. He's starting to get old. It's okay to admit that he's not the same guy that greatest coach of all time. But we can actually have that conversation after the way things transpired against LSU.
I can't go there. I can't.
Why? Is it going to cause too many problems, or you just don't want to?
No, because Joe, we've said it before. We said it in 2019 when they were a 2-loss team. You know, the year before they got absolutely roasted by Clemson in the national title game by Trevor Lawrence. Then the next season they had 2 losses. The only thing that happened the following year was some people believe that 2020 Alabama team was the best Nick Saban team of all time. I just can't go there yet because look, here's the thing with Saban. He's going to make offensive coordinator change. Bill O'Brien's going to be out. He's going to go somewhere. Something's going to happen. He'll get a coaching job somewhere. They're recruiting still at a very high level. Okay. And they still have guys like Jay. I told you this Saturday during the show, and I got ripped for it, but it's true. They rely too much on Bryce Young offensively.
Yes.
Way too much. The simple fact that he threw 51 times in that game is atrocious. They are a better overall team with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. The 2 biggest quarterbacks Nick Saban's ever had, biggest, like not even close, was obviously Bryce Young and Tua Tagovailoa. Is that fair?
Yeah, because they're both top 5-star recruits. Yes, absolutely.
5-star recruits.
Yes.
The best teams that he's ever had is with guys like Mac Jones. Why? Because they play within the element of the game that they need to play to win championships. They run the football more. They don't get cute offensively. They hit you where it hurts. I'm not going to say I can't go there that the dynasty's done because he's proven so many people wrong before. My only thing is this. Here's where I will agree with you on, and you're going to roll your eyes at me, okay?
Uh-oh.
I think that Brian Kelly's going to push him to a limit that he's never been pushed to. Like, I really do believe that there has not been a coach. Name a coach in the SEC West that has the ability that LSU has talent-wise with the coaching ability that Brian Kelly has that's ever pushed Nick Saban. Oh, and by the way, in the East, you got bowl cut. You got Kirby Smart. He goes and gets the Gruden haircut. That's his haircut. Like, got Georgia in the East.
Right.
And
I don't disagree with that statement, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The other thing, too, that comes into play here is, you make a really good point, though, that I think Brian Kelly is going to start actually pressuring him, and he hasn't necessarily had that pressure in their division. Like that's something he hasn't faced before. But an added layer to this, you look at this roster and the guys that they're going to be losing. Like, does Nick Saban really have it in him? Does he really want to sit through another full rebuild? Most of their offensive line is gone. Cam Latu's gone. Henry To'oTo'o is gone. Jordan Battle's gone. Bryce Young is probably going to be gone. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be gone. Like,
Jahmyr Gibbs is a sophomore, though, right?
Redshirt. He's going to be in this year's draft class.
Okay.
He's going to
ask you about prospects. That's the stupidest thing I could have ever done.
I would be stunned if he didn't enter this year's class. I would be really shocked.
And he will be. So basically, what you're saying is, and Bryce Young, Will Anderson will be gone.
Yes, and there are a lot of guys that will not be back on this Alabama team. It's a complete overhaul, and this was supposed to be the year that they were going to be really good. Their major hole that they have is the receiving group. And apparently that's enough to completely take him out of it. And the coaching decisions haven't been great either.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think that they did bad defensively, right? Like, meaning against LSU, I don't think that they did bad, okay? Meaning they still did a lot of really good things. They made a lot of – here's the biggest thing for me with Saban that where I think it's hurting him the most. I don't think that he has the amount of discipline that he normally gets from teams.
Yes.
They get so many dumb penalties. It is ridiculous. Jane Daniels is sliding. Why are you going for his head? Like, why are you doing some of the things that you're doing? I don't understand. But let me say this. In reference to the game, in reference to the LSU game, Saban and Bama got really lucky on a lot of things. Like, Joe, the out of bounds when the LSU defender has possession and they say Latu swipe down at it and he's out of bounds, you should have never gotten sick. That's a 4-point swing.
Yeah, that call was like a whole separate issue, which I'm sure that we could spend an hour on, because like that was stupid. That's actually a rule, and that's something that they can rule on. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but you're right. And then the most egregious thing on the Bryce Young touchdown, you have Harold Perkins being literally tackled. Like he literally got tackled by an offensive lineman. Okay, whatever. You miss a holding call. It is what it is. But then the tit pass, like you show the replay and his fingers are being bent back. And you say, well, it's not. It's a pass interference. He didn't tip the ball. I'm going to tell you this. If there are some things that if they don't go Bama's way from a flag standpoint, from a penalty standpoint, LSU beats them by 14 plus. Like, I mean, because you don't get the field goal there at the end. LSU has 2 minutes to drive the ball down. What if they go and get a field goal? Then if it is the tip pass, okay, then you don't get a touchdown. Like, that's fourth down, okay?
Right.
It's LSU's ball at that point. Well, they could kick a field goal, but regardless, there was legitimately, Joe, we went back and watched it. It was a 12-point swing off of penalties. That's two scores. Okay, so it gets to a point for me where the game did go in overtime, but it's not as if that game was at times as close as people thought it was. LSU dominated a lot of things there.
Absolutely.
I just can't go though, Joe, that the dynasty's done. Let me ask one more about the game, and I want to get to LSU because I'm going to talk about it religiously this week, but I want them to roast you, and then we'll get to some questions about it. Okay. Is Jane Daniels in the Heisman Trophy consideration now?
No. I think there's been other guys.
Name your five then.
His season has been fantastic, and I think that like he's probably the sixth guy out. I think Stetson's performance against Tennessee and the other performances that he's strung together so far this season push him back into it. Hendon Hooker's still in it, but he's moved down. Stetson's one. CJ Stroud, that's three. Blake Corum is the fourth one that I would bring up. And then I had and Max Duggan. Like Max Duggan deserves to be. But wait, for how unlikely of that team to be undefeated, and there's a very good chance that they finish undefeated and win the Big 12. If they win the Big 12, he's going to be standing there during the ceremony. He's not going to win it, but that's like a total, like, hey, this is the Big 12 kid, the good story. We're gonna put Max Duggan in the voting, and then likely it'll probably be Stetson Bennett or Blake Corum or one of those guys.
Did you see the blind resume though? On the quarterbacks. Now, Corum wasn't in it, and I'll give it to you. Did you see the blind resume?
I did not, but I'm willing to bet that Jane Daniels had the best blind resume.
Yes. He had the best blind resume. From this point, he's in there with total touchdowns. Now, passing touchdowns, he's not going to get to C.J. Stroud, but C.J. Stroud doesn't have the amount of rushing touchdowns that Jaden does.
No.
Here's the biggest thing for me in that blind comparison. He's more accurate and has only one turnover on the season. Now we'll get to this, and I think this is a good transition. He can get in there, but he's got to do something major. We'll get to the major. So continue your thought, and we'll get to that point, that major point.
Well, the rest of my thought was just that if he does get into it, right, like you're talking about, he does need to do something major, and that major thing is even if they lose to Georgia, like I think if he has like a really good game and it's a close loss, like that's enough to put him into it. If he's got like a 4 or 5 touchdown game and he just completely lights it up and they lose late because Georgia's just Georgia, I absolutely would put him into it. But I think as of right now, I don't want to say that he's been inconsistent, but there have been more consistent performances from the guys that I've brought up. And there's, I think, more storylines which always gets factored into the Heisman voting, that is going to prop those guys up ahead of him. Like, he could be the 6th guy. I think realistically he's the 6th guy, but those other guys have had earlier season production. All those guys are going to get pushed up because of it.
Would you put Bo Nix in there? Nate asks.
Bo Nix is another guy that I completely forgot, and I clown on him on my show all the time. But like, Bo Nix has been fantastic. The guy had a receiving, a rushing, and a passing touchdown against, I know, Colorado of all teams, but like, he's been the reason why that they've played so well. He's a completely different player at Oregon. He might even get a bump ahead of Jaden Daniels.
No. Stop.
If they win the Pac-12, absolutely.
If Jaden Daniels wins the SEC West, it is more impressive than winning the Pac-12. Colorado's on their 25th straight game of not scoring 20 points. Stop.
But okay, that's one game, but we're talking about the games that he's strung together against top-tier opponents. If he beats USC and he beats Utah,
who's the best team that they've beaten? UCLA, correct?
UCLA, Washington State's okay. Actually, they're not that. I sound stupid now that I realize that I'm saying it. But UCLA is a great team. They're gonna beat USC. They're gonna beat Utah.
UCLA beat any other teams, the top teams that LSU's played. Would they beat Ole Miss or Bama?
I think they could run it back with Ole Miss. I don't think that they could beat Bama. Come on. That's not I'm not saying that they will beat them. I'm saying that they're capable of beating them. Neutral field. I think that there's a possibility.
They're capable of beating them. In a blizzard, now don't make me start siding with Fisher here, DeLeone.
Okay. I think that Bo Nix deserves some credit here. Bo Nix deserves some serious credit for what he's done.
I'm giving you some shit. I'm just giving you shit. Okay. We're going to get to the big point here, and then we're going to get to some of the questions, and we'll get to Georgia, Tennessee. Joe, we talked about this offline, and I'll give you the floor. Go ahead, break the hearts of every Bayou Bengal in the country. Well, first off, LSU's got to do what they got to do to get to the SEC, to get to Atlanta. Yes. But I think that they can still do it. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, because look, Ole Miss plays Alabama this week. I think that Alabama rebounds. We'll get to that on Saturday. If LSU does what they have to do, they win out, they get to the SEC championship game, and they go to Atlanta. Your thoughts?
As fun as this season has been for LSU, and as admittedly, everyone who tunes in to the show and hears me talk about Brian Kelly, either on my show or Are You Serious Sports, knows that I was once a big Brian Kelly hater for obvious reasons, being a Notre Dame fan. I am willing to sit here and admit that I was wrong about Brian Kelly. I am excited for the outcome and the future trajectory for the LSU Tigers. But guys, please be realistic about Georgia. I have people coming on my stream on Sunday that were saying that, they're going to roll and they're going to win the SEC. They're going to beat Georgia. They're going to go to the national championship. It's just not going to happen. The way that Georgia played against Tennessee, a team that walloped LSU, that's enough proof. I don't need to go any deeper. That's enough proof. The matchups are too lopsided at key positions that I have to pick I have to pick Georgia by a pretty significant margin. And I know you're not going to sit here and admit it, but I think deep down you agree with my take that it's a very, very uphill, unlikely battle for them to win.
I'm not going to say it's impossible for them to win, because here's why. And I told you this. Yes, I agree that Georgia put the absolute smack down on Tennessee. Can't deny it. Tennessee beat the crap out of LSU. I get it. I don't believe in transitive properties. I legitimately don't.
Okay.
I really, because here's the truth. If transitive properties worked, then Alabama would have absolutely smoked LSU, right? Like they would have, because Tennessee smoked LSU, Alabama almost beat Tennessee. Then on paper, like Joe, we talked about this, and we'll get to your bet at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But LSU was a 13.5 point dog. Yeah. I mean, let's not mistake that. If transitive properties worked, Alabama would have beat the dog shit out of LSU.
But
my point is this.
Okay.
They're getting better, meaning LSU, a lot like Georgia. My question would be is if LSU were to get there and to win, two things would have to happen. Number one, Jaden Daniels would have to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, meaning they're going to – and here's another thing, too, that Tennessee didn't get away from, and this is my number 2. So it's kind of one and the same. Tennessee got out of their game plan in this way. When they couldn't run the football, Hendon Hooker was having a lot of success getting 5 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. They got so aggravated in doing that they didn't want to do anything else, right? Like they didn't want to – Tennessee wanted to hit the big shot, and Hendon Hooker couldn't hit it. I think LSU can be patient enough to go down the field in a 14-play drive and do it because we've seen them do it a lot. Tennessee got too aggravated. Go pop in the film. They would have third and 2. This happened 3 times in the Tennessee game. 3rd and 2, they threw a fade route to Hyatt, incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. You gotta get first downs on a defense like Georgia. You got to keep them on the field. You can't keep your team off the field.
I don't disagree with the logic, and I think that you can pull tons of examples. Like they're great points. They're absolutely great points. But if we just look at the way that, and I know that there's context, look at the way that Hendon Hooker, who is a better quarterback than Jayden Daniels and has played better than Jayden Daniels up until this point, until he played Georgia, he looked completely taken out of the game. Like he looked like a completely different quarterback. He looked like Joe Milton. He was a completely different guy. For them to shut down one of the most elusive quarterbacks in the SEC the way that they did is an improbable task. It was one that a lot of people said wasn't going to happen. Everyone said that Tennessee was going to dominate Georgia because they couldn't keep up. I said the same thing about the Tennessee matchup. I'm going to say the same thing here. LSU doesn't have the guys up front to match up with that defensive line that Georgia has. Jalen Carter and company, that's a bunch of dogs. It's a bunch of dudes. They are killing people. They look like grown-ass men going up against Tennessee's offense. So, while it's exciting to see the progression for LSU, I don't have faith that anyone can block that defensive line, just a straight-up 4-man front, a regular front. They don't have to bring anyone into the box. The fact that they did that against Tennessee, where they didn't have to bring extra men down, and they were able to do that from a normal front, is frightening. That's scary. And I'm very wary, and I don't think it's very likely that LSU can properly scheme their way out of something like that.
I don't think Hendon Hooker is a better runner than Jayden Daniels.
I don't disagree, but I think that Hendon has better pocket awareness and better ability to sense and handle pressure than Jayden does, because Jayden's much more of an athlete. Hendon's more of a quarterback.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Got to catch his ass first. Yes. Got to catch him. Okay. I will tell you this. Look, it's not like Bama doesn't have their front four is pretty damn good. I mean, Will Anderson's the best defensive lineman in the country, some people believe.
Mm-hmm.
Second half, he didn't do shit now.
But Alabama played bad against that defensive line, played bad against Tennessee, and they also were ineffective against LSU. I think that group is not as invigorated as they've been in the past. They're not as galvanized and as aggressive as they've been in the past. They've been weak this season. So the one group that hasn't been weak and the one group that's shown up every single week in important games, it's been that Georgia front. I think it's going to straight up just come down to that. How do they play? How does Keely Ringo and company in the secondary play? It's just such a hard matchup to win. I don't think there's anything wrong with being really, really happy with the fact that you're going to win the West, that you beat Bama, that you're probably going to finish as the second best team in the SEC by the end of the season. We just got to be realistic here that Georgia's a behemoth that you can't stop. It's Thanos.
Well, Thanos got beat. It's the second time around. So
next year, that's the second time around. This is the first.
True. I'm trying to find my way out of it. Look, I don't disagree with you. I think here's the thing. Georgia is deeper than LSU only due to the fact that Georgia is able to have the 85 scholarship limit. LSU won that game with 64 scholarship dudes. Mm-hmm. Joe, I just don't read the comments. Okay, I know. We'll move on.
I get worse comments on my stream, man.
Okay, they're being kind of nice.
I got some nice ones. Some people somebody said I was spitting facts, so it is what it is.
Okay. Well, look. I don't disagree with you. LSU's got to beat Arkansas this weekend. Okay, let's let them do that first. And look, Georgia's got
UAB too. That's a big game. I'm just kidding.
Well, and listen now.
Okay.
That being around Thanksgiving week and that game being at 8:00, good luck, buddy. Good luck to UAB, because we saw what happened. Now it's not going to be as electric as it was for Alabama.
Yeah.
Stop. Okay, now let's get to the Georgia Bowl. Well, and really, Joe, the truth is, I mean, we've already kind of been talking about Georgia, but kind of to transition a little bit to them. So let's talk more about Georgia then. In that game, look, I here's my thing about that game. Now, listen, they put the smack down on Tennessee in the first half, but let me say this. I don't know if Kirby was playing conservative or what. Excuse me. Oh, we got bots in the stream.
See, when I get the bots in the stream, I always bring them in. Like, I always put their comments up. I'm a little more interactive with the bots than I think.
Yeah,
you always block them.
Yeah. Tell Putin to get out my stream. Okay. But look, my thing about the Tennessee game is I think Josh Heupel, for whatever it's worth, when things aren't going his way offensively, he has no idea how to adjust. Like he legitimately has no idea. And for that reason alone, but in the second half, look, that was only a 2-score game. Like, whether we like it, love it, or hate it, Georgia only won 27-13. And that Georgia offense got shut down for what it's worth in the second half. Now, they ran the ball a lot. I get it. But
it was raining too.
It was raining for both teams. One team scored more points than the other. So one team throws the ball more than the other. And it's usually Georgia, but they weren't. My only thing is this. It didn't turn out to be the blowout that I thought it was going to be. I don't know what to make of Josh Heupel right now, because he just didn't adjust that well. I guess what do you, from a Tennessee-Georgia aspect, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, taking purely the Tennessee angle, because I think we've really dissected how good Georgia is, and their next big matchup is going to be that LSU game if LSU does end up winning out, which again seems very likely. But to your point about Heupel, I don't know what it is with these really offensive-minded coaches that are just, I mean, Heupel's a genius. The scheme that he runs, everything that they do has worked tremendously up until this point. But for some reason, these types of guys just don't make halftime adjustments very well at all. They keep banging their head against the wall and saying, this is going to work eventually. It's going to pop. It's going to pop. We just need one to hit. And then when it doesn't hit, they lose the game by a couple of scores. Like, it's kind of like Cliff Kingsbury, same deal, why he was unsuccessful at Texas Tech and why he's now unsuccessful at the Arizona Cardinals. There's no capability or willingness to make halftime adjustments. The best coaches are the least stubborn ones that make adjustments in any way possible before the game, in the middle of the game, at the end of the game. You need to be willing to go with the flow of things. And it's concerning that Heupel didn't make those adjustments, but I still believe that Tennessee has pushed themselves, and likely will, especially the way that he is recruiting right now, into that upper echelon as one of the top SEC programs. It's going to take some time. You know, you're not going to immediately be a national championship contender in your second season. For them to take these strides is a big deal. I don't want to, completely take myself out on the Heupel train, but this so far this season is a very, very nice first step forward.
I agree. Let me ask you this. Where does Tennessee go from here? So the committee's going to come out tonight with their rankings. Number one, where do you think they'll be? And then number two, if they win out, then what?
So the way that I've been looking at this, I think that they're going to be 4 based on who lost. At the very least, that they'll be placed at 5. Realistically, with the bias of the committee, I think 4 or 5 is going to make most sense. If they win out, and assuming other teams have losses, like Michigan or Ohio State's going to have a loss, Oregon, USC, there's going to be a loss there. TCU, very likely that they suffer a loss. I think it is likely that Tennessee finishes as that 4th seed behind other conference winners, and they're going to be that second SEC team that plays in. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if they did not make the playoff. And this actually losing to Georgia, not in an embarrassing and it's not an embarrassing fashion. It's a tough game. You're playing on the road. It's not one that's like, wow, you lost by 40. It's not a bad loss. It's not a horrible loss. They're probably going to get placed in because now they don't have to play in the SEC championship game and risk a loss.
The only thing for Tennessee, so there's 2 things, and one of them you say is never going to happen, but it's still a realistic possibility. They need LSU to get beat by Georgia. Okay. They need no, let me back up. They need for LSU not to win out, okay? Because if LSU wins out, the SEC champ's going to get in there, and I still think if Georgia's in there, Georgia gets in there too. They need Ole Miss to lose out or lose in the SEC championship game too. They need TCU to lose, like you mentioned. My only question is, if Oregon wins out, would they put in Oregon over Tennessee? Because I promise you this, on as God is my witness, Oregon is not a better team than Tennessee. I mean, you got to.
They're not. And that shouldn't be a hot take.
It's not a hot take.
But circumstantially for that to then happen, the problem is it's too early to really start doing the mental gymnastics. Like, I love doing this, but it's like, it's so hard because you can think of all these different scenarios. The other factor that comes into this, there's a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State team, does it come down to that battle? I think that's the more realistic outcome. If Oregon runs the table and they win the Pac-12, they're going to get in. They're probably going to get in as the 3. The winner of the Big Ten is going to get in as the 2. But then the battle becomes between Michigan / Ohio State and Tennessee. Like, that's where it's going to come down to. Realistically speaking, they're always going to lean an SEC team for the quality of play and the quality of teams and competition.
Agreed. That, it is a little too early to tell, but look, we'll have to wait and see. All right, Joe, listen, we're kind of wrapping up. We're only going 50 minutes here today. So let's do this. Let's get to a couple of these questions. Dane Bergeron says, Blake, Georgia's DBs are vulnerable versus Tennessee. QB overthrew his receivers a few times and would have gone for a TD or a major gain. Now, Dane's not wrong there. So in that game, Joe, here is the thing. Mm-hmm. Hendon Hooker missed Jalen Hyatt a lot down the field. The question becomes, if you're able to hit those passes like Alabama did in the SEC title game, but couldn't do in the championship game, can you beat them? And my question would be my overall question to you. Mm-hmm. Is LSU's wide receiver core as a whole, better than Tennessee's? Because I would lean on the side of they are, because of they have 4 dudes that will be drafted within the first 4 rounds. Jalen Hyatt may be the best of all of them at the current. Because look, Cedric Tillman's not out there, brother. Like, he's out. Okay, and so my thing would be is I would lean LSU as a holistic group more than Tennessee. Now, Tillman's probably playing the best of all of them right now, in my opinion.
I actually look at this differently, like the complete opposite. I think that LSU has the best talent on out of this with Keyshawn. Keyshawn Booty. However you pronounce.
We agree then.
Like, he's going to be a top 15 pick. No, we don't necessarily agree, because I think they get propped up because of Keyshawn. Keyshawn's supremely talented. He's capable of being the best receiver in the country. Has not necessarily actualized that. But in terms of the talent that has come up and actually showed up in games with Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman when they're both healthy, that, to me, that pairing is more dangerous than the collective LSU group. The bigger issue is that I feel like LSU's offense doesn't rely on their receivers making plays as much as Tennessee's does. So you don't need like 150, a 200-yard receiving performance, a 5-touchdown receiving performance from any of these guys, because Jaden can win you games on the ground. They're winning games on the ground. It's just different philosophies. The talent overall is better for LSU, but I think the quality of play that's shown up for Tennessee has been
see what you're
stronger.
saying, and I agree with that. But see, wouldn't that make LSU a little bit more dangerous in that aspect?
They are. I would say that they are. Absolutely. They absolutely are. But the production, Tennessee has the production. LSU has the talent.
American Patriot says it's way too early to start talking playoff. TCU will lose to Texas. You're big on TCU. Like, TCU's your team. You love the Christians.
I love TCU. It's just because, like, they're so fun. I love fun teams like this where they just, they don't give a shit. Their social team is hilarious. But if we're being realistic, if Quentin Johnston is as hurt as he is alleged to be, I don't know what his status is for this Texas game.
Didn't they say it was like a very bad high ankle sprain? What was it?
Something like that. I don't have any faith for them against Texas because they really struggled when everything was put on Max Duggan's shoulders. It is going to be a very uphill battle. If Texas's defense plays the same way they did against Alabama, they're done. It's not going to be close.
I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ball in that game. I think Quinn Ewers is a really good kid, really good player. Here's my thing with Texas, and it's always going to be the same with Texas. Since this, we're back. Look, in all of these high-profile games, I'm not going to say that Texas is going to lose. I got to see them actually win it first, right? Like, you got to prove it to me that you can actually do it. Now, can they do it? Yes. They are more talented holistically, in my opinion, than TCU. But you got to go and do it. That's my opinion.
They're really inconsistent. That's the problem is the inconsistencies. Like if you get an Oklahoma State or a Texas Tech type game from them, they lose. And it's weird. You can't predict which team shows up.
All right. So we're going to get to two more questions. Now I want to get one last thought, Joe, before we get out of here.
Gotcha.
Jerome says we can only hope LSU's defense can keep it tight. What about Harold Perkins, man? I mean, like Harold, Harold Perkins went off, and then look, I forget the Georgia DB, the kid's name, the freshman.
Ringo? No, not Keely Ringo.
Ringo's not a freshman, but even
right.
Let's talk about Ringo too. Brother, that's what separates the SEC. Like Harold Perkins and Ringo is what separates them. Just freak athletes, man. It's unbelievable the amount of dudes that they can get. All right, I can't really find the comment that I was looking for, but let's end it here, Joe, because we got 1 minute. Okay. All right. There's an interesting thing going around Auburn that Hugh Freeze might be coming back to the SEC.
I honestly, I buy into that smoke. What happened last weekend with them beating Arkansas, which was not talked about. Like it was pushed down because of everything else that would happen. I'm for it. I'm all for it. Instead of trying to buy out Lane Kiffin, the guy had success. I know that some of the things that he did were not great. We don't need to unpack
He had Hooker's on speed dial. He had Hooker's on speed dial.
But if we're talking about good coaches, I think he's the guy. And in an NIL era, he is capable of, I think, producing a really good Auburn team.
Last one. Are you buying the Dan Lanning smoke to Auburn?
Wait, has that picked up? I saw the Hugh Freeze stuff.
Oh yeah, it was all over social media. So let me tell you, I know you got to go. I'm not in a crazy rush. You're not in a crazy rush?
No, we can drag this out a little bit.
Okay. See what you did there? I get you on these coaching searches things. All right. I talked to an agent, I'm not going to say who, you know, I'm going to leave it there. I think the smoke's real. Actually, I know the smoke's real.
For the parity of other conferences, I'm praying that doesn't happen. But I mean, for Auburn being good, it's great for college football. It's a huge recognizable brand.
But Oregon being good is great for college football.
Yes. But that's my point, is that we need parity in other regions. It can't all be in the Southeast. It can't. Like we need other conferences to be good. But if we're just being realistic, if anyone's got the deep enough pockets, it's going to be Auburn. The only difference here, the only main difference is Cristobal was swayed into leaving to go coach at his alma mater. He was leaving no matter what. He played at Miami. It was happening no matter what. I don't think Lanning has that same tie. I'm trying to remember correctly where he came from and where he played or where he went to college.
Well, he was at,
I'm going to look that up
obviously
after we finish.
He was at Georgia.
Right.
Hold on. I can sign it up right here.
Knight's going to pull out the checkbook. If they win in the Pac-12, he's going to pull out the checkbook to keep him. He's not going to let him leave because of apparently how pissed off he was about Cristobal leaving. I don't think that he's going to let him leave. I don't think it's going to happen.
So, I mean, he's been in the South majority of his life. He's from Missouri. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily, I mean, he's not from like the South, right? Like, so
Right.
I don't, we'll see. All right, last one. I promise to God. Lane Kiffin. Let me ask you this. Would you do his buy? Would you see? Here's the interesting thing about Lane. In the state of Mississippi, you can't offer him a 4-year contract. You can offer him a max of like 2, I think it's 3 years. Guys in the chat, help me out. Here's the thing about Lane. Yeah. So they could offer him a 4-year, fully like $8 million a year guaranteed contract. Bro, like I get the buyout of Lane, but Ole Miss can't match it. Like there's nothing that they can't match it.
I guess it all comes down to who ends up being the first choice. And like these are the three names that are going to get debated. If Lane's the guy, throw all the money in the world at him. But I think realistically speaking, it should be Hugh Freeze. It should
I agree. I would agree.
The results are there. Like Liberty being as good as they are, 9-1 ranked right now, that's not supposed to happen. And beating Arkansas,
it's no more than 4 years. So for him to get an extension, it can't happen.
He might be thinking about that. I'm sure that he's had those conversations with his. So that's the point. There is that he can't really even use this as fodder to get an extension. I didn't even know that he can't use it at all.
Here's another one, Joe, to rudely interrupt you. 4 years is a max under Mississippi law.
Yeah, that's really bad for Ole Miss because like that was the
watch him change it in legislation within the next week.
I mean he's shown activity in politics and stuff, so maybe he does that.
Well, if I'm Kiffin, because here's the thing, Kiffin at Auburn, we talked about all these dudes that can run Nick Saban out to your earliest point about is the dynasty done. Here, I swear, I said this Saturday. Let Lane Kiffin go to Auburn and beat him and start out recruiting him.
Then he retires.
Because Lane would retire him.
Yes, absolutely.
And with all the bad blood between Lane and Nick on and off the field,
he's got all the dirt. He knows how to tackle him from multiple angles, and I think that like Nick's lost his edge.
Not only him, that's not the only Saban he tackled.
Yeah.
But
but like he knows Lane is tactile enough, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it to know that how he could really take down Nick Saban. I totally agree with that point.
We'll see. All right, Joe. You said I kept it under 55 minutes.
All right. We did good on time.
Ooh. All right, guys. Look, we're going to continue to do this SEC show. I think we're going to go ahead and just rename it and come up with our own thing. It's Blake. Yes. It's Joe. It's the Rufino and Joe show. Sounds pretty good.
With EA UX. No, you're not
too much EA UXs.
If I tell Eric Weinberger that's what we're naming it, he's gonna come back with name it EA UX on both things. I'm telling you right now. I will send you the screenshot of the text. I'm telling you that's gonna happen right now. We'll see.
We might do it. Till then, we'll see you guys soon. Peace out, little Girl Scouts. Oh, press the wrong button. Actually, we're going this time.